A wise man once said, welcome into Game Time Decisions. We are live at a Thursday night on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you for 2 hours as we bring back the NBA. 12 games tonight in the association. Some college basketball, some NHL slate to go through as well. And I decided that for the people, I would step up. We have a pick in all 12 games tonight in the association. JY will be here in 10 minutes time. We'll get his picks on the NBA board as well. And I'm excited at the top of hour 2 to talk to Mike Blewett about the growing odds that suggest Russell Wilson will be the quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers next season. It is a busy Thursday night, so let's open this up with a look at the 12-game slate that we are getting from the NBA. It starts in Toronto. The Brooklyn Nets will go to battle without Jacques Vaughn for the first time this season. Kevin Ollie in as their head coach for the remainder of the year. The game between the Knicks and the Sixers, an interesting one. Still no Joel Embiid, still no Julius Randle for these respective teams. The Sixers a slight favorite. How about Dallas and Phoenix catching a lot of eyes tonight? Luka Doncic we'll talk about in a moment. Bradley Beal listed as questionable for this basketball game. Jason Tatum certainly has a bell to answer, labeling himself the best player in the NBA. Why he would do that, I do not know. They're an 8.5-point favorite in Chicago. Maybe the best game on the board would be Clippers Thunder. OKC at home, a slight favorite in that game against LA. Injury reports look clean on both sides. We bring the radio audience into the fold. We're here with you on Sirius XM channel 159, SportsGrid Radio across the network. It is Game Time Decisions, and I'm Kevin Walsh with you. Denver laying a ton, 15 to Washington. The Lakers without LeBron James tonight, catching 6.5 from the Golden State Warriors. We're waiting on word as to whether or not Domantas Sabonis will be available for Sacramento. Was initially doubtful earlier on today, but with Victor Wembanyama coming to town, he's been upgraded to questionable. Could impact the props market for that matchup, which is where we will be attacking. Again, a delightful 12-game board. Great job by the NBA, legitimately. I've complained quite a bit, a lot of their scheduling choices. They also gave us 2 great games right here on this line is what we get from the national TV slate. It is unfortunate LeBron is not going to be playing, but it is what it is. Let's bring up the NBA's title odds as it feels a bit odd saying the second half. It's really the final third of the NBA season that remains. Boston is plus 230, nearly double the price as the next team. That would be the Denver Nuggets. We go 5-1 Clippers, plus 650 on the Milwaukee Bucks. And you see a big drop-off tier-wise. Then I will say Milwaukee and Phoenix, the 2 updated win totals we bet. So certainly invested in every game that they play. Phoenix on this slate tonight. We have over 48.5 wins at a plus price. I don't particularly love their spot tonight. I will probably sit out most games unless I have a very strong take that involve Milwaukee or Phoenix due to being involved in the win total. No Bucks tonight. One other thing to mention here at the back end of this is this Philly number at 30-1. The Sixers were inside this top 6 for a lot of this season, and then the Joel Embiid news came out. We talk about second half storylines, and there's plenty of them, right? Will the Lakers and the Warriors make the Western Conference playoffs? Will Victor Wembanyama continue to come on strong? Can the Celtics get themselves to 67, 68 wins? Nikola Jokic versus SGA versus Luka versus Giannis for the MVP. These are all very legitimate storylines. But maybe the most important question that still needs to be answered is will/when Joel Embiid return for the Philadelphia 76ers, a 30-1 number that will be slashed considerably if we get confirmation that the big man for the Philadelphia 76ers will be back anytime soon. Let's move over to the college basketball board. Only 2 ranked games on tonight's slate, but they do have a little ranked action here. The Cougars of Washington State go to Arizona. Now, they're catching a good amount. The Wildcats are one of these 4 consistent number 1 seeds that we see projected right now. Purdue is another one. Houston and UConn round out that bunch. Washington State starting to come along. The Pac-12 has really been looking to have a team step up and solidify themselves in this upper echelon conversation, and that's what Washington State has done. A win tonight would obviously be quite the upset, but hang with inside this number. I know it was a while back, but remember when Colorado felt legit, went to Arizona, and got absolutely drilled in that basketball game? We'll see if Arizona can do more of the same. Now, Purdue-Rutgers, not one we can get involved with here in New Jersey, but if I was on this game, I would certainly be looking Rutgers' direction. Having to lay this type of points against a team as good as Rutgers is defensively, it does feel like a tough task. We know the Scarlet Knights have challenged Purdue a good amount over recent history here, but a lot of people are identifying this as a good spot for the Boilermakers due to the fact they're coming off of a loss this past weekend at Ohio State, so we will see how that plays out. Other college spots tonight, I'm sure people looking in the Big Ten. Ohio State is playing against Minnesota. Michigan takes the trip to play Northwestern. All stuff for us to keep our eye on. And I know Oregon, I believe, playing Stanford tonight, some late Pac-12 action there. So, again, all stuff we can keep tabs on. Let's bring the NHL board into the equation here. Yesterday on the ice, we got the player prop to come in on Mason McTavish, over half a point. Actually was a 2-point performance for McTavish. Had 2 goals for Anaheim despite losing high-scoring game against Columbus. We lose on the Edmonton Oilers in overtime. Only the second time this year the Oilers lost an overtime game. Credit to the Boston Bruins for being able to close the door, but they were up 4-1 in that hockey game, up 5-4 as well, and they ultimately allowed it to get to OT. They did close the door. They are in action against Calgary. The Panthers and the Caps are looking there. The Caps coming off a nice win against the Devils. Little local action here with the Devils and the Rags. I've not played it yet. The hockey spot I'm looking at tonight, though, would be on Sid the Kid. The Pittsburgh Penguins, decent favorite at home tonight against the Montreal Canadiens, plus 130 at last look for Sidney Crosby to secure a 2-point game. Minus 140 for an assist is the best number you can find, but it's been a good goal-scoring season for Crosby, so that's where my attention is at the moment. Let's go to your quick pick here. It's going to be coming to us from the Dallas Mavericks-Phoenix Suns game, and that is Luka Doncic over 31.5 points. Look, tonight's board is tricky, right? Some of our trends can get beaten up a bit due to the All-Star break, but Luka is certainly qualifying for due tonight. Consecutive games without 30 points, a rarity for the Don. I also think there's some narrative where he has to answer the bell for a lackluster All-Star game. He also, we know, loves beating up on the Suns, 50 points and 34 points in 2 games against them. And to add a little bonus, an odds boost tonight, Luka Doncic and Devin Booker to combine for 55 points is plus 100 on FanDuel. Let's put that on the board as well. Coach James Young up next. It's Game Time Decisions.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
This sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, let's make it splashy here because we've got a lot to get to and not enough time. Coach James Young in the mix. JY, the NBA is back. It could be tricky, obviously, because we haven't seen these teams in a little while. So, you know, everybody was in a rhythm, and that's the players, that's the coaches, and that's the bettors, NBA-wise. We got to get back to it now. How does your NBA card start tonight?
Well, you know, there's a lot of places you can go with the NBA card, and there's a ton of games. And I had a bunch of stuff, so I'll just make it quick. I like the Celtics minus 9.5. I know they are 2-8 against the spread their last 10 games. I know Chicago is 7-3 against the spread their last 10, but I think this is a spot for a Boston team. Now it's on 8.5 that really should be pushing themselves towards the best record in the league. I think they come out the blocks hot. A bunch of guys still out for Chicago. I like the Celtics. 9.5, it's down 8.5. Give me the Celtics minus the points.
I will pepper in some of my picks. We're going to do the full 640 breakdown for my entire card, one pick in every single game tonight. I'm on Tatum, over 2.5 made threes. Admittedly, I am the worst Jason Tatum better alive, so I am worried about it. But I think this is a step-up spot for somebody who is calling himself the best player in the NBA. And big Jason Tatum scoring games have required good three-point shooting performances. JY, there's no way we have enough time for you to get into that. Clippers Thunder is a huge game on this board tonight. How are you betting it?
Let Russ cook. Let Russ cook. Let Russ cook. Russell Westbrook, over 18.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Over 4 of his last 5 games versus Oklahoma City. 30 out of 53 this season. Up-tempo game, K-Dub. Lots of points, lots of pace. Russ, over 18.5 points, rebounds, assists.
This is a total that has been dropping from the open of about 239.5 down to 235. I think this could be a spot where people are betting under on a big-time total due to the All-Star break. Of course, both these teams had guys involved, SGA, Kawhi, and Paul George. But I like that discount at 235. That's not where this number should be. And I'm going to fade the All-Star game delay that I think people are betting on here. The Raptors and the Nets go to battle with Kevin Ollie instead of Jacques Vaughn. Coach, how do you look to break this game down?
Scotty Barnes over 7.5 rebounds over his last 4 games. 11 rebounds last game versus Brooklyn. Really good. Obviously made the All-Star team playing at an extremely high level. Has to rebound without Siakam and obviously Anunoby, stuff like that. The next team, Kevin, they're going nowhere. They shoot bricks. Lots of rebounds. Scotty Barnes over 7.5 rebounds tonight.
All right, Jay, let's get to the college game here. I want to ask you about one. I know you're not on, but to some people there is a notion that Rutgers maybe has Purdue's number. Now, this game's not at the rack. Obviously, it is at Purdue, but it is a lot of points for the Boilermakers to be laying. How do you feel about that number?
Oh, if I'm in Jersey, so I can't bet it. So are you. We're about 15 minutes away from each other. I would be taking the points of Rutgers all day long. I think they were a 10.5-point underdog at home, lost by 6 in the game. Remember, folks, I think 3 of the last 6 years they've won at Mackey. This is a competitive team, and here's why, Kevin. You said it at the open. Their defense and their ability to slow the game down, that's how Pike will play it. Big Cliff is enough to maybe force Edey off his spot. They'll defend the three-point line really well, one of the best defensive teams in the country. Give me the Rutgers Scarlet Knights plus 15.5. They lose, but they lose by about, I would say, 7 to 10 points.
All right, let's stay in the Big Ten, JY. Number that you're going to look to lay, Northwestern and Michigan. What do you see here?
Michigan's going nowhere. I mean, this is bad. They were in that game with Michigan State. They kind of crumbled down the stretch. Nakawa is out. He was second in points, second in rebounds, second in assists. I think Williams is back. He missed Michigan State game. Michigan 2-8 against the spread the last 10 games. Northwestern 6-2 against the spread the last 8. I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, I think Michigan's won like the last 6 meetings or so versus Northwestern. It changes tonight in a big way. One team's going towards the tournament. One team's probably getting a new coach. Northwestern minus 11.5 points tonight.
All right, JY, we are in the America East Conference here for you tonight with Albany, the Great Danes, catching points from the Catamounts of Vermont. What do you like?
Oh, I'm calling UVM all day, Kevin. 7-3 against the spread their last 10 games. Albany 3-7 against the spread their last 10. Vermont's covered 3 in the last 4. And the last time they played, it was a 22-point beatdown by UVM, the best team in America East. Give me the Catamounts. That's what they're called, folks. Catamounts minus 12.5 at Albany tonight.
All right, JY, and then a huge number in the WCC, Gonzaga against Portland. You're confident laying that number?
Yeah, you know what, Kevin? You and I have talked about this, and you feel like they're going to win the West Coast Conference tournament. They're starting to play their best ball. And now with this coming down the stretch of them being a bubble team, in case they don't, Kevin, they got to start laying the wood on teams. And they've covered 4 of the last 5 games, winners of 9 and 10. Portland 1-3 against the spread the last 4 games. Last time they played, a 32-point beatdown that Gonzaga gave Portland. I'm going to lay the points. Give me the Zags minus 21.5 on the road.
Yeah, look, I'm very interested to see what we get out of Gonzaga in spots like this because I think it's fascinating betting-wise. But those final 2 regular season games at San Francisco, at St. Mary's, they win both. The WCC tournament is not even something they're going to have to worry about. They're in, just like JY said right there. Coach, let me ask you about this game tonight with Washington State catching a ton from Arizona there. This Washington State team emerging potentially as the second best in the Pac-12, but Arizona has just been dominant over this conference throughout this season. What do you make of that late game? It's ranked versus ranked.
Well, Washington State's been one of the big surprise stories so far in college basketball this year. And if you look at this game, it is a lot of points. Now, the last time we were in this spot, I think it was Colorado went there, and they got absolutely mauled by Arizona. Yep. But, Kevin, I think this is too many points. This Washington State team that's covered, I think 8 out of the last 10 against the spread. They're playing really good basketball. And if you look at Arizona, this is a lot of points. I know they've been hot against the spread as well, but I think it's a spot where Washington State can do enough to hang around. Remember, folks, 73-70 last game. That was Washington State. Now we're turning around expecting a 20-point, a huge blowout here. I don't see it. Give me the Cougars plus the points.
All right. We, by the way, did get a confirmation. Bradley Beal will be out tonight. It's going to be Eric Gordon starting in his place. JY, Dallas and Phoenix are 2 teams in the West that are playing pretty hot basketball. Dallas winners of 6 in a row heading into the break. Phoenix, though, again, playing pretty well. Is that a game you put your eyes on for tonight?
I actually like the Suns plus the points. Kevin, they have the hardest schedule in the NBA the rest of the way, right? If you really look at it, they could easily slip themselves into the play-in tournament. I think, Kevin, I'm not mistaken, they could be tied in the loss column. I'm not mistaken, or right around there in the Western Conference. They're tied in the loss column with New Orleans, Sacramento, and obviously Dallas is 1 game behind. Big game for Phoenix. I just got a feel that they're going to start to turn it on. I know Beal Gordon's a capable scorer. Give me the Suns plus the points.
Yeah, I'll say, JY, to your point, right? Phoenix is at the 5 right now. They're a game and a half up on Sacramento, who's at the 8. So it's not just the play-in, but the 8 isn't far. I mean, look, they're only 3.5 up on the LA Lakers. There is not a world of separation here from these basketball teams. Now, I'm someone who's on the Phoenix win total over, and look, I think Dallas is playing very well. I really like this Mavericks team. Everything I said about Dallas during the offseason, I backed up with preseason wagers, and I feel good about as they enter the second half of this season. So I'm in on Dallas. I'm not sitting here telling you Phoenix needs this one, right? But it gives you the kind of idea of the schedule they have that both Coach and I are looking at this as like, you'd love to have it. You'd absolutely love to have it if you are Phoenix. That's just the caliber of schedule that the Suns are running up against. Coach, we appreciate it. Best of luck on the bets tonight.
All right, K-Dub. See you next week.
All right, great stuff there from Coach James Young. Coming up next is going to be Tom Vecchio talking more NBA as well as tonight's NHL board on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the Empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. At the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live
on SportsGrid. It's Game Time Decisions. We're with you on a Thursday night. I'm Kevin Walsh, now joined by Tom Vecchio. Tom, it has been a while, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I am doing good. The NBA is back in action. We are approaching crunch time for these teams. NHL approaching the deadline on March 7th or 8th, whatever it is. March Madness around the corner. Baseball starting. Great time.
Yeah, I think it probably, pretty appropriate a pair of hockey guys attack this slate to start. I mean, let's be honest here, Tom. People are loving the hockey props. The hockey prop last night came in. Shout out my boy Mason McTavish, over half a point and had 2 goals for Anaheim against Columbus. I lost on the Oilers, though. And here's the thing. There was a moment, it looked like a really dumb play. Then they got it tied up. Then it tied up again. They got it to OT. Then they flash up on it's a national TV game I'm watching. They flash it up 4-1 in overtime. I'm like, we stole coin here. They lost to Boston. I wasn't happy about that. I do have a pick tonight, but let's get yours first. What do you like on the NHL slate?
I like a lot tonight, but Jack Hughes for a goal at plus 125, I really like. I also wrote up about Joe Pavelski for the Dallas Stars at plus 200 for a goal. Stars are on a little 3-game losing streak, and this is a very clear bounce-back spot for them going up against the Senators. I would say the same thing about the Vancouver Canucks. Also, 3-game losing streak, best team in the league. Get them in a bounce-back spot. So I like Dallas to win in regulation at plus 100.
All right, there you go. I tell you, for me, I'm on Sidney Crosby over 1.5 points at plus 130. You can get plus 116, whatever it might be. What I've basically been looking for, because I haven't really talked this out as much here on the show, but I'm typically looking for a home team. Total's got to be 6.5, and I'm just looking for guys that I can trust to usually get a point or an assist. It's where I feel most comfortable betting. Goals, to me, are a bit more random. If you look at the best players in this league outside of Austin Matthews, right, it's usually a lot of assists. Assists are easier to come by, and that's typically where I felt most comfortable. Crosby's been having a great goal season here, Tom. Only 1 assist in this month, but that's, again, part of the reason I like the 2+ points there. He could get it with the goals. I think he is due for an assist, but getting him for 1 assist was too expensive to pay on its own.
Right. I certainly understand that. Like, okay, he's a primary scorer in some capacity, whether a shooter or a passer. He's on the top forward line. He's on the top power play. The one thing I would say is that the Penguins' offense hasn't been great, and Jake Gensel is now out for multiple weeks, who is normally the primary shooter on that line, who Crosby assists to. So he's still going to be working well with Brian Rust, who has plenty of connection with on the ice. It's just a little bit less powerful of an offense.
But also to some degree, and this I carried in, it's every sport I bet, right? There's a level of due. Crosby pointless in his last game. That stuff all applies. I want to ask you about something quick, too. I know any person who comes on to talk hockey, I ask them about the Hart Trophy. But there was significant movement last night because Austin Matthews got the 50th goal and then the 51st goal, and he jumped both McDavid and Kucherov on one slate. And is now plus 260. Now, Kucherov not far behind, 270. McDavid plus 340. McKinnon is still the favorite. It feels like to me, and again, I'm more on the outside, so tell me if I'm wrong. If they voted tonight, Austin Matthews would win this award based on the goal-scoring season that he's having. What is your read on the NHL's MVP award?
So I actually spoke about this a couple days ago in depth, and he's on pace for 74 goals, which hasn't been done since 1991, and no one's had more than 65 since 2007 when Ovechkin did it. So if he can break those records, I think there's a legitimate chance for him to win the Hart. It's different because he's never going to have 130 points like McKinnon or Kucherov or McDavid. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at what determines the MVP, a player having 125 points, doing all these things, or is it a player breaking a record that hasn't been done in 30 years? So I think there's a legitimate argument for it. When I spoke about Matthews, he was at 4.5 to 1, and that number is gone now, and you're not going to get that back. So
no,
it's a very tough market.
If you get it back, it means he's not going to win the award,
correct?
Right? I think that's kind of if it goes that. I mean, I was talking yesterday to Scott Wetzel, who told me FanDuel was offering a special early this month for him to have 15 goals in the month at 28 to 1. And he's obviously now kind of on pace to have that type of month. But the thing, too, it's all relative, right? But he's having his best assist month already. I think he's already tied for the most assists he's had in a single month. So the points are coming along. And I'll tell you, I'm fascinated by this because I've been watching the odds move a ton. But how much does like team record? What typically comes into play, Tom, when they're trying to figure out this award? Because I obviously have a better read on the NBA than I do the NHL.
Right. The team record and success does factor in. And it also is going to depend on, like, if theoretically, if McKinnon and Kucherov are tied, I think they're going to default to McKinnon because he's a center. He has to take faceoffs. Winning faceoffs is important. Kucherov doesn't. So, like, there's very fine minutia. We get to a certain point. Also, the Avs can win their division and Tampa's not. So then we start breaking things down. Matthews is a center. Obviously, that's very important. And if he can get to 70 goals and they obviously make the playoffs, they're not going to win the division, there's a legitimate argument for him to win.
All right, we'll keep our eyes on this. Let's get to the NBA. First time in a while. We are betting regular games here. It's been a week. How do you start your NBA card tonight?
It starts off with Devin Booker over 2.5 threes at plus 124. Love this game for a lot of scoring. As I mentioned on the early line this morning, I think there's going to be a good chance to see a lot of in-game betting for live overs. If I thought you just mentioned the previous segment, but I think players may come out a little bit sluggish. So I think live overs are going to be very profitable tonight. You can jump in after like a quarter. Maybe players are finally getting the back in the flow of things. But for Booker with Beal out, he should be taking plenty of shots. A lot of pace in this game. Both teams are playing super fast to end the other side of the break before the All-Star break. And Booker is shooting at 8, 9, 10 threes. He's not always super efficient with it, but the volume should still be there for him tonight.
Yeah, look, I will say, Tom, it's not that I don't think there's definitely going to be spots where it's ugly basketball tonight. 100%. Wouldn't surprise me if that's how the Lakers-Warriors game looks, right? Okay. A lot of guys on vacation, but the OKC Clippers game, which is the one I was talking about specifically, I can just point to a somewhat recent meeting where that total was 240. That's where the books opened up this total, and people came in and banged under. And I think banging a pregame under because, come on, there was a couple of All-Stars involved, I'm gonna bet against that here on the opening night back. I mentioned the game between the Warriors and the Lakers. You have a prop in it.
Yeah, that's with Anthony Davis over 28.5 points. There's no LeBron tonight, and I see this as an extremely straightforward game for the Lakers. They are neck and neck with the Warriors in the standings. This is not time to mess around. I think overall teams should not be messing with their rotations. They need to get the best players the ball. And with LeBron out, it's going to be an Anthony Davis night. He should be taking a minimum of 22 field goal attempts realistically. That's what he should be at, and piling up the points. I'm not worried about the Warriors defense because they're not really playing a whole lot of it. And yeah, get the points to Davis. Reeves will be involved. D'Angelo Russell will be involved. Mm-hmm. Keep the main guys there with no LeBron, and they can cover this game. I'm not sure if they win, though.
I'm on them to cover tonight. They're 3-3 this season with AD without LeBron. They've done a nice job covering these numbers. They hang in these games. AD typically steps up. And this, to me, is one of the stronger Warrior numbers we've seen in quite some time. I mean, since Draymond's come back. And I think there were moments where the books were really hesitant to book the Warriors strongly again, Tom. But this feels a bit too strong for me tonight when I still think a lot of these Lakers will look to step up on national TV.
Absolutely. And, what was the quote from Steve Kerr that Klay Thompson will come off the bench for the foreseeable future? Like, there's a few things going on with the Warriors. They actually don't look like themselves at all. So, like, I have no confidence in laying more than, 2 points with the Warriors at, like, any time.
You just reminded me of something that I wish I remembered a little bit earlier, which was to figure out Klay's probably an under tonight. So Klay was awful against, it was the Clippers. Then they put him on the bench, and the least surprising thing in the history of the NBA is him scoring 30 off the bench. It's the least surprising thing I've ever seen, but it probably reverts back, if I had to guess. It is going to cut into his workload and rhythm eventually. That's just how this goes, Tom.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised to see these types of swings for Klay Thompson. So if when they played Utah in that game, so the next time they play, the Kings or someone like super high over under, like that could be a spot to ladder Klay Thompson, but there's absolutely no consistency on like a nightly basis because there will be that high variance.
Right. And, I mean, if we're talking about guys coming back from All-Star break, don't forget Draymond Green was working the entire All-Star break. I'll ask you quickly, Tom. Did you bet All-Star Weekend at all?
Yeah, I had Donovan Mitchell to win the three-point contest. That didn't come through. I also had Halliburton to win All-Star Game MVP, and he started off on fire. And I thought, okay, this game's going to have 1 billion points. He could drop 30 and 15, pull up from half court, knock down some threes. And then Lillard comes out of nowhere after a bit of a slow start and does everything. I also had the East to win. So I was like, East to win, hometown narrative. Halliburton's going to drop 30 and 15 with these highlights and alley-oop assists, and it just didn't cash.
Yeah, look, he had all the scoring. He didn't have a ton of assists. It didn't help that Dame shot the way he did. But I will just say, I know it's nuts that I'm talking about All-Star Game MVP prices for next year, but Halliburton got bet down to the second option, and it's respectfully Tyrese Halliburton. Next year, it is in Golden State. Steph was like the fourth option to win MVP in this game and didn't even get a starting nod. I cannot wait to see what the Steph Curry numbers are in next year's All-Star Game. I legitimately think we're looking at like 9.5, 10.5 for a three-point prop. Tom, appreciate it. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome stuff. I'm going through this full NBA board next right here on Game Time Decisions.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game Time Decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live here, Game Time Decisions. It is a Thursday night, and the NBA is back. 12 games from the association, 24 teams in action, that means, so almost the entire league playing. And I decided let's step up for the people and go 12 picks, picking each game. And some of these are kind of tiered off for me. I will let people know this. I'm on all the games, broke down all the games. So I'm not giving you stuff if I didn't like it, if I didn't bet it. We bet all this. But some of it is lowered, the risk amount, just because we're going to get our feet wet as to see what works, right? Let some of the trends build back up and see how these teams react. So I will say this, and obviously you always, bet within the means, but I think specifically here, just we have to be kind of cautious heading into this NBA slate. With that said, I do have a best bet, and I absolutely love it, and it is Amen Thompson over 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists for the Houston Rockets. Now, Amen Thompson started the final 5 games for the Rockets before the All-Star break with Fred VanVleet out. I am well aware FEV is coming back and Amen Thompson is going to be pulled out of the starting lineup. But can we just please look at what Amen Thompson did in those 5 games? Let's go through it. Right? 13 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. 8 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. 12 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. 8 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 19 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists. Now, that equaled, this 5-game run, a combined 27.6 points, rebounds, and assists, which is more than double his number tonight. If you are Ime Udoka, you drafted this kid 4th overall, you inserted him into your starting lineup, you played him roughly 34 minutes a night, and he gave you that, would you yank him entirely from your game plan? I feel pretty confident, especially since FEV may not be at 100% still, that you are going to get more than the typical minutes than Amen Thompson got when FEV was around. And in fact, if you look at Amen Thompson's 2 games prior to when FEV was out, which Fred VanVleet played in both of them, Amen Thompson had 8 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. That's 17 PRA. And the game prior, be it a blowout, still dominant, 19 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. That is 30 PRA. I think Thompson has now earned a floor of 20 minutes, if not more. This 13.5 PRA is a number that they have just completely reverted back to what he was doing in the middle of January. I don't think he's that player anymore. This is a kid for me who I thought was the second best player in this draft class behind Victor Wembanyama. So part of that probably factoring in for me as well. I think this is a great opportunity, and this bet is not up to Amen Thompson. It is up to Ime Udoka and how much he plays the 4th overall pick, who flashed a lot of good right before the All-Star break. Time will tell. We then go to Jason Tatum. Some of these spots here are a bit narrative-driven, and for Jason Tatum, this one is no exception. Jason Tatum, I don't know how, I don't know why, but opted to call himself the best player in the NBA. Now, some of that was, I feel like I'm the best player every time on the floor, and it got conflated a little bit, right? But I think Jason Tatum feels that it is a necessary thing for him to say and to believe in order for the Celtics to cross the finish line. And to some degree, he's probably right. I would say, in fact, Jason Tatum is going to have to be this team's best player in the series, right? He has to be able to beat the guy across from him if they're actually going to get back to the NBA Finals. Him getting outplayed last year in round 1 by Trae Young, which gets swept under the rug, is something that they can handle because the Celtics are far better than a team like the Atlanta Hawks. But if they draw Philly, or if they draw Milwaukee, if they draw Cleveland, he can't get outplayed by Embiid, Giannis, or Donovan Mitchell. And the reality is, for Jason Tatum, you cannot count on that not happening. But, I think JT now has to step up here for the Boston Celtics. And I think 30 points is certainly plausible. But if you look at Jason Tatum, there's been an elevation in three-point volume, and over 2.5 made threes can be found at -140, and that is worth a look. basically, Jason Tatum, in games where he scores 30-plus, I mean, you're looking at more than 70% of those games he's making 3-plus threes. I think that's the look for Jason Tatum tonight. For me, give me the Aaron Fox under 10.5 rebounds plus assists. So I was going to bet this at 11.5 when Domantas Sabonis was supposed to be missing this game, feeling that we had ourselves a bit of an inflated number. The re-entry of Sabonis to the expected starting lineup, which I feel like is here a little bit, dropped this number down to 10.5, which is fine. Here's what this comes down to. De'Aaron Fox has hit this comfortably in 3 of his last 4 games. Prior to that, he missed this prop in 9 straight games and 16 out of 17. This is selling high. That is exactly what I'm going to be doing on De'Aaron Fox in his rebounds plus assist market. Playing the San Antonio Spurs, he could look to go score first. Also, it could very well be a blowout. They're a double-digit favorite in the game. Let's say he only plays 28, 29, 30 minutes. That could factor in as well. So give me De'Aaron Fox under 10.5 rebounds plus assists. We've got 4 points props on tonight's board. My favorite is Tyrese Halliburton. And again, a bit narrative-driven here, but Halliburton sure did a lot of scoring in that All-Star break. Obviously, the 3-point contest had himself an incredible All-Star game. The reality for Tyrese Halliburton is now it's the Chris Paul comparisons that people make, right? Halliburton might be the single best passer in the NBA right now. We know he leads the NBA in assists. But what will separate Halliburton is his ability to score the basketball and do so efficiently. And that is what will become a separating thing for the Indiana Pacers. When they get to the playoffs, he is very likely going to need to be their lead man scoring-wise. And he can't just defer. And we started to see that a little bit as this team was closing out prior to the All-Star break. He went over this 20.5 points prop in 2 of those 3 games. And his minutes started to revert back as well. So for Halliburton, who gets to play in front of the hometown again against an awful Detroit Pistons team, I think he should come out firing tonight. Over 2.5 made threes was expensive at minus 180. I wouldn't mind laddering that. Again, if I'm Halliburton, after that All-Star break, I would just wonder if it clicks. He should be shooting 10 threes a night. He should. And if he does that tonight, he'll get over the 2.5 made threes, but he'll also go over 20.5 points. So give me Tyrese Halliburton. Give me Jamal Murray over the same number. Jamal Murray limped in a little bit to the All-Star break there and ultimately missed this team's final game. But he is back tonight, playing an awful Washington Wizards team, and I think this is a step-up spot here for Jamal Murray specifically. When the Denver Nuggets made the NBA Finals, a lot of people thought that that was going to be Jamal Murray solidifying himself on a different level in this league. And that's not how it played out. Jamal Murray did not even flirt with the All-Star game this year, nor should he have. He was injured and not good enough. That's just the reality for Jamal. But this could be a spot for him to step up here and completely take advantage of the Washington Wizards back home as well, where he has been better for this basketball team. Give me Jamal Murray over 20.5 points. We already mentioned taking Luka Doncic over 31.5. We're also playing the odds boost, considering I like Luka's over and Tom Vecchio likes Devin Booker's over. That is absolutely fantastic on the over 55 plus, which is a nice little odds boost there on the FanDuel Sportsbook, paying out at plus 100. Give me Ben Simmons over 7.5 points. Ben Simmons found himself back into the starting lineup prior to the All-Star break. Ben Simmons is still probably the most talented player on this Brooklyn Nets basketball team. A lot of chatter around the Nets, though, because apparently Mikal Bridges and Spencer Dinwiddie were all very angry that Jacque Vaughn built the offense around Ben Simmons. Well, someone should tell those guys that their team was significantly better when Ben Simmons was healthy, and that they fell apart when Ben Simmons wasn't there. Now, I guess bad on Jacque Vaughn for not adjusting, but Jacque Vaughn was absolutely correct. And in fact, I now think higher of Jacque Vaughn since the slander reports have come out. And if I'm Ben Simmons, and we'll see how it plays out tonight. Look, we got to take some shots here post-break. He should shoot a bunch tonight. Forget Mikal Bridges. Forget Cam Thomas. I know Dinwiddie's gone anyways with the Lakers. And Ben Simmons should call his number tonight. He's better than anyone on that team as is. He's hit this prop in 3 of 5 cents returning, and it's at plus money. Give me Ben Simmons over 7.5 points. Sides and totals. Thunder Clippers, we've talked about it a bit. We're on this over here at 235. This number dropping 4 to 5 points since it's open. I think a lot of people fading these offenses post All-Star break. Not for me. Too much talent on this court. That opening number is where this total
is supposed to be. So I'm going to fade the movement and play the over in Thunder Clippers. Sixers Knicks has been a rising total. This number climbing up to 228.5. I'm still going to bet it there. When these teams had met prior, this number was about 5 to 7 points taller than it is now. I understand Embiid is not there. I understand Julius Randle's not there. But what we do have are two offenses, I think, due for breakout performances. The Knicks offense really limped into the All-Star break there. Brunson had a nice game against Orlando with 33 points. But on a whole, as a team, they did not have any big games. The last time they were in Philly, they had put up a $128. And I think this Sixers team continuing to find rhythm in the absence of Joel Embiid. Buddy Hield has been absolutely marvelous. Tyrese Maxey, I think, can play well tonight as well. So give me the over 228.5. Three sides, three dogs. The Hornets plus 9.5. The Lakers, that's on me, 6.5. I got it at 6, actually. And then the Magic plus 8.5. For the Charlotte Hornets, look, they're playing better basketball heading into the break. We'll see how the Miller-Bridges 1-2 punch continues. But I don't think the Utah Jazz, who I understand had a good stretch of hoop, I don't think they're 9.5 points better than anybody in this league. So I think that's way too many points to be laying with Charlotte. For Cleveland, while I understand they were playing great basketball as well heading into the break, some of that momentum can be broken up. We saw they weren't obviously stellar right before the All-Star break. The loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, the non-cover to the Chicago Bulls. I think 8.5 is too strong tonight against an Orlando team that, very recently had a trip to Minnesota. And that in the line was only 6.5 here. And then lastly, give me the Lakers plus the 6. We talked about it, but Anthony Davis without LeBron is still 3-3 this year. He's done a nice job covering numbers. He has stepped up. And the Lakers, we talk about momentum. We talk about the level of hoop being played heading into the All-Star break, but the Lakers have been playing much better basketball. They winners of 3 in a row with a couple of great wins. Obviously, the one at Boston is where this all started. They followed that up by beating the Knicks. This team's only lost to the Denver Nuggets within their last 7 basketball games here. So to catch this team getting 6 against the Golden State team that I still feel the books have been hesitant to book strongly, I think this line overinflated due to the absence of LeBron James here, and we catch a nice number with the 6 points here on the Los Angeles Lakers. Let's run it back and re-rack quickly here. 12 games, 12 picks. Amen Thompson over 13.5 PRA. Jason Tatum over 2.5 made threes. De'Aaron Fox under 10.5 rebounds plus assists. Tyrese Halliburton over 20.5 points. Jamal Murray over that same number, 20.5 points. Luka Doncic over 31.5 points. Ben Simmons over 7.5 points. 2 overs on totals. Thunder's Clipper over the 235. Sixers Knicks over 228.5. Hornets plus 9.5. Lakers plus 6. Magic plus 8.5 as we button up here a big-time card for you on the NBA's return night. 12 games, 24 teams in action. I'm not the only one, though, looking for juice on the NBA tonight. We throw to the morning crew who have a pair of picks in the game between the Sixers and the Knicks. That's next.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, let's turn it over now, because we're live with you on Game Time Decisions, to the morning crew. Donnie Rightside and Ben Stevens, who both love the NBA and their best bet for tonight's slate of the association with the return.
You bet your bottom dollar. It's a best bet. It is time for Bye Bye Bye. "12 NBA games tonight following the All-Star break. So much college basketball action on this Thursday with 3 top 25 teams in action. What gets Donnie Rightside's best bet?
I'll tell you, we're going to go to the Philadelphia 76ers here going up against the New York Knicks, but it's actually 2 best bets in one game here. Not taking a side or a total. I'm going to take Tyrese Maxey to go over 26.5 points here as the first leg. And the last game we saw him against the Miami Heat before the break, dropped 30 points here. No one's Joel Embiid. He's going to have to shoot. I believe he will. 30 points should be in the equation. But how about Buddy Hield? Over 4.5 assists here, Ben, as we take a look. Did you know Buddy Hield coming over his last 4 games? 6 assists, 6 assists, 8 assists, and 10 assists. He's only listed at 4.5 assists tonight. Give me Buddy Hield's assists over 4.5 and Tyrese Maxey over 26.5 points from the city of brotherly love.
Now, if I were a critic, which I'm not, I wouldn't say this, but if I were, I would maybe critique Donnie giving out 2 best bets in a best bet segment. You go 1-1, you lose on juice. We wouldn't love that. So now they both need to come in. Also, notice we never get the Ben best bet. You got to ask yourself, is he pulling his weight in those segments? These are the questions that people want me to ask. I don't even want to ask him, quite frankly. I'll say this on Buddy Hield. It's not just the assisting since he's shown up in Philly. The scoring as well. 20 points, 23 points, 24 points, 22 points. I'd rather bet the points plus assists on Buddy Hield at 20.5 and see if he can continue to explode through at least one of the categories, just in case one of them does come back down to reality. But Buddy Hield has been awesome for Philly. We'll see if that continues. We are back in less than a minute with Mike Blewett and the Pittsburgh Steelers on Game Time Decisions.
Welcome back in. It's SportsGrid's Game Time Decisions on a Thursday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. Great crew coming by. Joe Madden going to help us on the ice. She got me last night head-to-head. I went Oilers. She went Bruins. She had it nailed. Good for her. So we'll see what she has tonight. We've got Dave Sharapan back in the mix as well. But to open up this hour, welcome to the Electric Factory. It is Mike Blewett. Mike, how are you?
I'm feeling great. A little bit under the weather, but not so under the weather that I can't spit off some fiery takes with you, Kev.
Mike, I'm happy to have you. I am curious. I know we're going to talk some football here, and rightfully so. There's some legitimate stories and some legitimate odds movement, but is there anything in the sports world that you're betting tonight or has your attention on this Thursday?
I make a pretty swift transition from NFL season to college hoops. We're following college hoops all throughout, but I really focus a lot on college hoops this time of year. I'll be traveling to several college basketball tournaments and doing some live segments, hopefully with you, with Ben Stevens and Donnie in the morning. I'll be at the Summit League tournament, the SoCon tournament. I'll be at the Final Four. So college basketball always on my mind. And what better league to focus on than the Horizon League? I'm a mid-major guy, Kev. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Let's go Northern Kentucky. Let's lay the 2.5 over the Cleveland State Vikings.
A sizzle play, people. A sizzle play. You didn't see it coming. Let's be honest. You thought when I asked Mike Blewett that question, he's going to not really. No. A Horizon, Northern Kentucky sizzle play. Radio audiences here. We love to have you at Sirius XM channel 159. We're live with you on a Thursday night. SportsGrid, Kevin Walsh, Mike Blewett. So, Mike, the odds for Russell Wilson's next team are telling a story that I'm not necessarily believing. But minus money has gone to strong minus money. Russell Wilson now a minus 250 favorite to have his next team be the Pittsburgh Steelers. What is your read on this situation?
I understand why people are saying it. You're looking for viable starting quarterbacks that are available, that are currently with another team and will be in the market. There really aren't that many of them. There are Russell Wilson, presumably Justin Fields, and you could make an argument if you wanted to. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is out there if somebody needed a spot starter, but a bridge starter. But we also have an influx of several guys that we picked in the first round. We got Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, and potentially others. So all of those teams, and you could count up probably 9 different teams, Kev, that will make a starting quarterback switch going into next season. Half of them will be covered by draft picks. The others are probably trying to figure out what the move is, and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields could be those moves. Keep in mind, there's some link between Arthur Smith, the new Steelers OC, and Justin Fields, so I would not rule that out at all as a possibility to bring in competition for Pickett, because as much as some Steelers fans may like Kenny Pickett, you have to say after watching him for a little over a year, he just wasn't getting it done, and they need to push a little bit further on a team that has too many solid pieces around them to just keep squeaking into the playoffs and losing in the first round.
But Mike, my read then on what you said there, you don't see Russell Wilson as a lock to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. No. Minus 250 is not a lock, but it's pretty strong. If you look there, Vegas 350, Falcons 650, stay in Denver 750, 850 Pats, everybody else 10 to 1 or longer. Who is catching your attention on that board?
I think I think the Raiders I would rule them out simply because I don't see that being an interdivision move. There are there's a story to tell where Russell Wilson order next year. Look, let's rip off the teams really quick, Kev. The Bears are going to make a move. That's probably Caleb Williams, right? The Broncos have to make a move. What are they going to do now that Wilson isn't part of the deal? Are they going to roll with the players that are on the roster right now? I don't think so. I don't think that makes them markedly better. Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask there in Tampa. I think Baker could be on a cheap deal for the Bucs for a couple of years, but do they want to make a bigger move to make them a bigger contender in the NFC? Beyond that, you have the Commanders, you have the Falcons, you have the Pats, the Raiders, the Steelers, and the Vikings. Those are all the teams together that don't have a specific solution that we would determine a specific solution for 2024. You start to piece it together, half of them will be draft picks. And then what happens is Kirk Cousins tests the market. Would the Steelers be the type of team to go out and give Kirk Cousins a deal to upgrade their quarterback and dismiss all these other options? I know this organization very well. That is not a Steelers move, but they could come over the top on the Vikings if they wanted to. To your point, I don't think it's a lock. Who is a lock for Russell Wilson? I don't know if anybody is right now, but as the music stops, somebody's going to be left. Some team is going to be left without a quarterback, and they'll be the ones looking for Russell Wilson. I don't think the Steelers will be the most aggressive team to land it.
Yeah, yet again, and I agree, Mike. Personally, I think the Patriots and the Commanders should be interested in Russ. I like sitting a quarterback, and I think both those teams at 2 and 3 will be drafting Jaden Daniels and Drake May in some order. Here's my question, though. Pittsburgh right now is 36-1 to win the AFC. In front of them, the Colts 24-1, the Browns 20-1, Jacksonville 17, 16 on the Jets, 16 on the Chargers. Are you moving Pittsburgh in front of any of those teams if they land Russell Wilson?
I think you could probably move in front of a couple, but I think the greater point you're making, if I'm reading you right, is does it really make them appreciably better? Does it really put them in contention to win the division, take down the AFC because Russell Wilson is there? I don't think so. It makes them better than with Kenny Pickett, I think. But Russell Wilson is 36. I just think there's a tendency, because we just watched what Tom Brady did, is to be like, that guy's got plenty of time left. And Ben played for a long time. And we have this recency bias that these guys will be just as effective in their late 30s as they were in their early 30s. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are not the rule right now. They are the exceptions to the rule. If that continues to happen, then I have to change my tune. But for right now, Russell Wilson has gotten worse each of the last 3 seasons.
And to Mike's point, look, Tom is 1 or 2, probably depending on who you are, in terms of greatest ever. Rodgers, I know a lot of people have soured on the personal stuff, but for many people, one of the 10 best to ever play the position. Russ is great, started on a Hall of Fame trajectory, but he's not that. And to your point about, Big Ben and Phillip Rivers, the endings weren't the prettiest, right? I mean, I know Phil with the Colts was fine, but the offensive line was absolutely perfect, right? And the situation was pretty solid. So that's why the Russ thing is so confusing. But that's, again, why, Mike, that minus 250 price is continuing to surprise me. You mentioned Justin Fields a few times, though. We have the Fields odds. People talking about Atlanta. We'll get Mike Blewett's thoughts on that next here. It's Game Time Decisions.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, could score, and his game is elevated. He's leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. At the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live on SportsGrid. It's game time decision. Some of this NBA board opening up here. Should we do a first basket report for the people? Pascal Siakam hit a 3 for the Pacers. So there's your first hoop in that game. Max Strus with the layup. If I had to guess, Mike Blewett was all over that prop. That's just my read on it. Brunson, hot for the New York Knicks. And let's see who got this bucket here for the Raptors. Scotty Barnes. A lot of stars. A lot of stars there for the first baskets. For the people. All right, now, Mike, we talked about Russell Wilson and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I feel through your knowledge of the organization and maybe this much from the fans' line, you're like, nah, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing this whole Russell Wilson thing. Justin Fields is minus 130 to go to the Falcons. Steelers are typically booked as the second option there, though. What do you make of the Justin Fields market and where he could land this offseason?
Look, there's a noted relationship between Mike Tomlin and Justin Fields. And Mike Tomlin has said in the past, with pre-tampering possibilities, this is way back to his college days, that he liked Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin had exposure to a lot of players when the Steelers were on the sidelines at the Senior Bowl a bunch of years back. So I think, and Arthur Smith was noted to have come in contact with Justin Fields along the way. He's obviously a Georgia product. Arthur Smith was coaching in Georgia. At one point, they crossed paths. I just think that because of the way it went down last year with the Jets, and everybody's saying it's Rodgers, it's Rodgers, it's Rodgers, and then that ultimately happened, that is causing the market to think that this will just happen again. As the rumors build that it's got to be this guy, dotted lines, crossed lines, the old matching column thing. Wilson to the Steelers, Fields to the Falcons. Let's wrap it up nice and clean. And I don't think that's the case. I just think you have to consider cap hits and everything else. And the Steelers going in on a 36-year-old quarterback when they just had an old quarterback retire, replaced him with a guy that's not good enough. I think they're going to consider all options. And I don't see why. Now, I still believe in Fields probably more than the market does, although I wouldn't put that with a capital B. I think there's issues there, right? His completion percentage is driven down. He also was a guy that worked with 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. I think if he and Arthur Smith are on the same page, perhaps we get the best version of Justin Fields, and we'll see what that is. Is it better than Kenny Pickett? Is it worse? We shall see. But that offensive line of the Steelers is a little bit improved from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. It's not a perfect team, even with a replacement at quarterback, but perhaps it's more competitive than it was in the playoffs.
I think for me, I don't have a great read. Some people seem pretty confident that, it's going to be Atlanta. I think the only thing I'm confident in is it's not going to be Chicago. and that's a starting point, certainly. I just think this situation is pretty obvious for the Bears, and that's before you really even evaluate Fields deeply. Caleb Williams is going to be so much cheaper than Justin Fields that it's pretty much a no-brainer situation there for Chicago. I think the question, Mike, is going to be, what does it cost to trade for Justin Fields? And are you going to have to, and I'm curious your read on this because you know this stuff well, do you think the acquiring team will need to sign him to a contract? Not Burrow, not Herbert, not Hurts, but Daniel Jones level type of deal for the team that trades for Justin Fields?
No, I don't. I don't think that will have to be there. I think that this is going to be will end up being a surprisingly low price for Justin Fields overall. And for that team to have to hitch their wagon to him for much longer than this effectively 1-year trial, I don't see that having to be the case. I think this team he'll be on a prove-it deal, and if it's the Steelers, and I hope he lights it up. I hope he lights it up no matter what. I think we talked about this before, Kev. You and I talk about this topic a lot. The organizations are more responsible for these players' failures than the players themselves are. You're giving the guy 3 years with 3 different offensive coordinators and regime changes and expect him to be successful. It's highly unlikely. Daniel Jones saw some stability in his career, and he had a career year, and he's now injured again and is a $40 million cap hit. So the Giants are in a world of hurt with that. But there's a lot of different players we can make examples of here. But I think Fields, I'd at least give him one more shot to be a starter somewhere, where there's other players that, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, that have had multiple chances and likely will never be a starter again.
I just think the thing with Fields, though, Mike, is it depends on the draft capital that you have to move in order to bring him in. That depends on whether or not you can let him exist on that 1-year deal. And sometimes teams are just too risk adverse to allow that to be possible. And it makes it a difficult situation. But I could see a Vegas Raiders bringing him in, Justin Fields. I think they're the team to watch. I think Antonio Pierce is going to be able to wield a decent amount of power within that organization. And I think Antonio Pierce is about to become, maybe side by side with Dan Campbell as the players coach in this league. And I think if you're Justin Fields, that might be what you need more than anything. You don't need, for me at least, Mike, the structure of Mike Tomlin or the weaponry that people are obsessed with in Atlanta, even if it's a touch overrated in my eye. I think Justin Fields needs to be comfortable again, more than anything else. And he was in the news recently unfollowing the Bears on Instagram. I unfollow NFL. Yeah. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And I think to a level that's true. I think Justin Fields just wants to be done with it. But I think he knows that means being done with the Bears, being done with this debate. And I think a place like Vegas could really be perfect for him, Mike.
Yeah, to your point about all the following and unfollowing, if I were him, I wouldn't want to hear about it either. He's not stupid. He said it's a business. He has an agent. His agent knows what's up. He's not coming back. So whether he follows the Bears or unfollows the Bears, he does not want to deal with it anymore. I'd be tired of hearing about it too. To your point about the Raiders are in a position now where Antonio Pierce is going up against Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, and Sean Payton. And their roster, compared to the others, is probably, you could rank it wherever you want. It certainly is not first, but it could be fourth. They may have to be the type of team that is not being risk averse, that is being more aggressive in order to try to level up. They have stiff competition from a coaching standpoint and a roster standpoint within their own division. So for them to have to take a risk with Justin Fields, maybe get the best version of him with some of the other weapons they have on that team, could be really interesting.
A lot for us to follow. I'll mention this quickly to you, Mike. It's early, and I know I'm not giving you a lot of time to expand on it, but I saw Drake May the other day favored to be the second quarterback drafted. That would be the Commanders. Do you have an early read on, assuming Caleb goes one of the Bears, on what Washington might do it too?
That seems like the type of pick that Dan Quinn would want to make. But they have a new GM as well in Adam Peters. And I do not at all consider Drake May to be the lock at number 2. Some people have him as number 1, but I think Jaden Daniels makes a real push to be the second quarterback taken.
I would look that way as well. I would find the most plus money. I do think, Mike, and the odds reflect this, it would be pretty surprising if we don't end up 1, 2, 3 quarterback without really any movement. Because I don't see Washington or New England really in a position to pass. Because what you have now, look, Caleb's a different tier of prospect, but Drake May and Jaden Daniels are, if you go through the last 6 drafts, and maybe one day we can do this, and just in terms of prospect hype, Drake May and Jaden Daniels are up there. There's a lot of excitement around what those guys can bring to the table. Mike, appreciate it. As always, appreciate the breakdowns, and best of luck with Northern Kentucky in the horizon.
Go Norse.
There it is. Coming up next, Joe Madden helps us break down tonight's NHL slate. We'll check in with Sid the Kid as well next.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're live on SportsGrid. Game Time Decisions continues. Joe Madden with us again, helping us break down the NHL slate. Let's start with this, Joe. You got it right. I got to give it to you. The Bruins pulled it out. They deserved to win, but you thought they were going to collapse. They did kind of collapse. They got it handled, though, in overtime.
That was a stressful game there. I couldn't believe that we pushed all the way to overtime, 6-5 win for the Boston Bruins. I tell you, I was sweating that one out, as I'm sure you were, but fantastic game out there on the ice for anyone who had any prop bets in that one, because look at those goals, 11 goals in that game, Kevin.
Yeah, it was a wild one. I thought about playing the over at a flat 6. It was expensive. Probably shoulda, woulda, coulda. Nobody cares. We move forward. There's a lot of ice live. I'll ask you about it if there's time, but there's still plenty to come. Let's start with the Blues and the Isles. It looks like this total checking in at 6.5. Is that how you're looking to bet this game?
Yeah, I am. I really do believe this is a 4-3 style game, and we're getting a value to the over in this one. I look at both of these teams, and I can't trust either defense or giving up those shots on goal. And looking at the goaltending matchup here, the St. Louis Blues getting Binghamton to start and Varlamov here for the Islanders. I really do think high-scoring affair in this one. A couple of players I would circle as well if you want. You can look at Bo Horvat here for that. His shots on goal tonight, 4+ shots on goal, you're getting plus money at plus 142. And then the other side of the puck, Jordan Kyrou here, the power play points coming in. You can look at him for a power play point at plus 200 tonight. Now he's on the top line for the power play, and 3 of his last 5 goals have come in the way of a power play. I like his ability to either get that goal on the power play or the assist, Kevin. So I think there's a nice opportunity to make some money off of that.
All right, not bad. It makes a lot of sense as well, Joe, if you expect the game to go over. More props, more shots are all available there. The Boston Bruins, we just talked about, they are on a back-to-back. They go to Calgary here tonight, Joe. How do you look to play this game?
This is going to be a stressful one, especially for Calgary fans. The Boston Bruins rolling in so strong off that win last night versus the Edmonton Oilers. But I tell you, that was such a physical game for the Boston Bruins. They came out and they got so many hits on the Oilers. I worry about them in the second and third period there. But I do think we look at this first period. We know Calgary has given up some goals in the first period, and so have the Boston Bruins. And if they have a little bit of tired legs, I wouldn't be shocked if Calgary hit them or if Boston was able to hit Markstrom in net here for Calgary. So I'm going to look at that first period over 1.5 goals. That's coming in at minus 106. The last 3 meetings between these two teams, we have seen those goals come in quick and hard and fast in that first period. So I love that. I'm also looking here at Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames for his shots on goal. You can take him 5+ shots on goal in this one. He's been going over this notoriously versus the Boston Bruins, really been stepping up. Last game versus them, he was able to get those 5 shots on goal, and looking at him versus the Jets in their last game out, he was able to get 2 goals, an assist, and those 5 shots. So I like his ability to come out strong tonight, Kevin.
Yeah, I will say, and I didn't play it, but I was tempted by the Bruins money line here tonight, Joe, minus 120 range. I get it's a back-to-back, right? But Edmonton, obviously, the better team than the Flames. I think if Boston does have the momentum about them now, that number is not all too bad. Let's keep it moving here, though. We go to Seattle, who bring the Canucks in, and this total 6.5, but it's pointing towards the under right now on a minus 134. How do you feel about Vancouver, Seattle?
Vancouver really needs to get back on track. They've lost their last 3 games, and this team has been struggling. But we have the Seattle Kraken here. They're off that overtime loss to the Red Wings, and this isn't a team that I have a lot of faith in, especially with Grubauer in net and not Joey Daccord. I actually have more faith in Joey Daccord. He's just had more playing time as of late, and especially against the Vancouver Canucks, who are so strong offensively. Now, with them losing their last 3 games, something that we're seeing is they're getting up in that first period, but then they're blowing these leads and allowing their opponents to be able to come back here, Kevin. So looking at the Vancouver Canucks to start off, how they've been starting off in all of these losses, up hard and fast on the Seattle Kraken, I think is a nice opportunity. Laying the puck line in the first period, we're getting amazing plus money at plus 168, and I think they have every opportunity of doing so. I wouldn't be shocked if they got the win here, but I'm just not loving the full game just with recent form. But I do think that first period starts off hot for Vancouver. This is also a battle of the Pacific. They absolutely need to get this win over a divisional rivalry team here. So I do think Vancouver comes out straight out of the gate and gets up. So laying the half a goal in the first period is plus 162.
All right, love the look there, Joe. Let's get to maybe the game of the night, which is a pick'em right now, Vegas and Toronto. Again, the look for me would be Vegas. We know they're a solid team. Toronto's playing very well. Ken Austin Matthews continue to score. At this level, though, you have to wonder, how do you feel about this matchup with Vegas and Toronto, Joe?
I can't look at Vegas here. I look at Vegas, and Jack Eichel has been out of the lineup for a while now with that knee injury. He's expected to come back shortly, but he won't be back for this game. And then you take Mark Stone out of the lineup. He has a lacerated spleen here, so he's not going to be out for a while. You're taking away two hot goal scorers for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I know Vegas is rested and they're at home, but I do think the momentum riding with the Toronto Maple Leafs is the only way I can put my money in. Even though they're on that second night of a back-to-back, I think they can come out nice and strong. It feels like the books are begging us in this one to take Vegas at minus 110 at that pick'em cost at home versus the Leafs on the second night of a back-to-back. And I can't fall for it, Kevin. I really do think Toronto, with their momentum, can keep rolling hot. Now, they've won their last 5, and this team, like you said, with Austin Matthews, has been absolutely money out there for us, and I think they continue in this one. So I think there's a possibility, though, of this one to go to overtime. These two teams are going to play each other extremely hard. I really do think it's either 2-2 going into overtime or 3-3, so I stayed off that total, but at plus 340, nice opportunity for overtime in this one.
All right. I mean, look, it is a big price, right? And the game is as close as it gets in terms of that money line at minus 110. So it certainly makes sense from that vantage point. The last game of the night, Joe, is Kings Predators, and Nashville is a plus 130 money line dog. This total checks in right now at 5.5, but a lot of juice pointing towards that over.
Oh, and you know what? I couldn't lay this one to the over. I look at how these defenses have been on both sides. And while the LA Kings have the stronger defense, and we have seen some games go over that total, I'm really expecting a goaltending and a defensive battle in this one. I'm going to take the under 5.5, Kevin. That's coming in at right around that plus 112. But I think the Predators are a live road dog in this one. These two teams play each other so extremely tight, and I'm relying on Saros here, the goaltender for the Predators, to steal them this win here on the road. His save shots on goal numbers coming in at 29.5, and I'm definitely going to hit that to the over. Right now on FanDuel to the over, it's minus 108, and we look at him versus the LA Kings. He's 5-2-1 in his career versus the Kings, and he didn't have the best game versus them in the last one, allowing 3 goals on right around 23 shots on net. But we look at the 2 prior, and, you know, he saved over 30 shots on goal in both of those, so closer to that 32-33 mark. And I do think the Kings will bring it tonight. They're going to bring it all that they can have, peppering him out there, but I do think he stands tall tonight. So Saros over 29.5 save shots on goal, and the Predators for a sprinkle on that money line. I think they can get it done, Kevin.
All right, again, Joe, we appreciate all the breakdowns. I want to bring up the live board. Tell me if there's anything that catches your attention. We're tied in the first period, 1-1 with Pittsburgh and Montreal. Sid the Kid not involved in that goal. I'm on his 2+ points tonight, Joe, which is unfortunate. We're scoreless in Carolina, Florida, as well as Detroit, Colorado. Rangers early lead, Ottawa Senators early lead, Capitals an early lead on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Do any of these early scores catch your attention?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still looking at the total between the Florida Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes to that under. Now, that line has moved down to 4.5, and I know it's a scary number to hit to the under, but this is playoff style hockey between these two teams. We know the Florida Panthers haven't been allowing those goals to come in. It's been over a month since they've allowed more than 2 goals, and the Carolina Hurricanes so strong defensively. So the under 4.5 at minus 150, playoff style game here between two teams that are elite on the power play and elite on the kill. That one really stands out. I do think the Dallas Stars and the Ottawa Senators, we had a home dog in the Senators. So if that game gets tied up again, you guys, I would definitely look at the Senators when you're getting more value with them up 1-0 over the Dallas Stars. Not a place to jump into that game right now. And the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. Kevin, this one screamed a trap game here with the New York Rangers. You look at that price that we were getting on them. This team has been rolling so hot, and why we weren't getting having to lay more juice with them in that situation. So I lean towards the Devils being able to get the win. So if you want to jump in on the Devils at plus 176, I think you're getting a lot of value here because this line did not look right going into this game. It just felt wrong in this one. But the Avs and the Red Wings, that game probably goes over. Live line 5.5 plus 112 to the over. Once one of these teams opens this one up, I tell you, you can't trust either defense and offensively. Both teams are so strong, Kevin.
Yeah, I was thinking, I saw there's a 2-1 on the puck line for the Avs, which is obviously not what you would have had to pay pregame. I'm also, the Lightning Capitals game, which is now at 6.5. How much longer can you wait? Could you get a 5.5 in that game? I think would be interesting with the Capitals already having a lead. But again, we'll follow this NHL board. We'll follow this NBA board. And the in-game live crew will have it covered. Joe, we appreciate it as always. Joe Madden helping us break down the NHL board.
Thanks, Kevin. Good luck tonight.
Yeah, you too. All right, awesome stuff. As always. Coming up next, Dave Sharapan, as we get set to recap and reset and look out for everything still left here on tonight's slate.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death. True. Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as a unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach, a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated. He's leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid. Great choice out of you. Let's be honest. Game time decisions. Where else would you want to be? Dave Sharapan, though, yesterday, apparently, who knows where he was. It wasn't with me. That's all I know. Now, that's mainly because he doesn't usually do Wednesdays, but I was complaining. Look, here's the deal, Dave. I'm salty because I wanted to ask you about the Oilers-Bruins game, and I was on the Oilers, and it looked bad, and then they tied it 4-4. Then they had to tie it 5-5. They go to overtime. They go, hey, look, they're 4-1 in OT, and they haven't lost a shootout all year. I went, we stole it. And the Bruins had other plans. No good.
I'm impressed. You've become a hockey guy. I like this turn. It's almost like a heel turn in wrestling, but you've really become a hockey guy. You're hitting me with these player props, player assists, all kinds of stuff. I absolutely love it. You're staying up late watching West Coast hockey. There's a great West Coast hockey game tonight, but, didn't want to get too regionalized and, come on and talk about the Maple Leafs and the Golden Knights, but that's a big hockey game. But I apologize.
Big
game. When Koski and the boys try to move me up to the earlier spot, I couldn't make it work because, I want to make sure I'm in the seat, framed up, ready to go. So couldn't do it. That 15 minutes was really costly. I didn't want to be late. I couldn't do it.
I will say this. I will say, one, I just like the idea that, look, 7:40 is prime time. I'm not showing up for no 7:25. I like that. I think that's what you should just go with. Like, look, or for 4:40, right, for you?
Yes.
Quickly, someone the other day, I paused, remember who, they tweeted to me. They go, remember when Donnie was messing with you, saying you were going to be breaking down hockey and you told him no, and now look at you? A hat tip to that person. There's a good point. Here I am. Secondly, here's my hockey pick tonight. Now, it's a slow start, but it's okay. It's a lot of game left.
Yeah.
It's Sid the Kid for 2+ points, plus 130.
Oh,
we're
boy,
back in the Penguins.
Oh, my goodness.
I know.
The Penguins are struggling.
We like that.
You better have gotten
That's
a good price on this.
Plus 130.
Is that enough? The Penguins are struggling. They can't score. The power play's a mess. Almost at the bottom of the league completely. They're not getting no goals. Oh,
they already scored. Now, he wasn't involved is the problem. But they already scored.
All right. Well, that's fine.
You know what I mean?
Listen, they're playing Montreal. They're a gigantic favorite. This is the get-right game. This is
exactly.
So I like the handicap. I like the thought. You got plus money. You got to get 2, though. Sid's not scoring. We need 2 assists. Oh, boy.
No, but here's the thing. It's been a low assist month for him. See, the goals are still kind of coming for Sid. I was going to do the assist, but minus 140 too expensive. I can't do that. So I'd rather climb the ladder. We'll go 2 points. We can hit it either direction. See how it goes. Here's the thing. I was going to not bet it. NBA's back. I didn't want to get out of rhythm, so I made sure I had a hockey play for the people. I thought that was important.
They like it. They like the hockey play. I'm getting some DMs myself about this magical segment we do every single day, and they're like, Kevin's a hockey guy now. I said he always was a hockey guy secretly, but when the NBA takes off, you went deep. You had to come with it because I think today isn't the theme of the NBA today. It always was for me in the book and in the risk room was like cautiously. Like it's been gone for a week and everybody wants to come in, fire a bunch of stuff because you got a full slate of games. But after that All-Star game and all these days off, like how is LeBron not playing today? I mean, that's your guy. How is he not playing, Kevin?
Dave, they reported Sunday he wasn't going to play in this game.
Like, better.
I get it. Yeah, but Dave, here's my thing. I understand people expect me to know this information, but why did everybody else only find out today he wasn't playing today? That's on everybody else. I'm sorry. You know who didn't know? Hold on, I'll just tell you this. Yesterday, I was right here. They had up LeBron props for the Warriors game against the Warriors-Lakers and AD props. And they had an AD 25.5. I knew he wasn't playing. That's all. What are they doing? What are the guys in the room doing? They don't get these same updates I get? I got a different feed? I got a LeBron-only feed? Come on.
It's automated. 1, procedure's automated. 2, everybody's on vacation. All the executives, all the people, they're paying attention. The NBA guys still on vacation, so they put it up incorrectly. But everybody knows you got a direct line to the king. They know that you're in that text thread group with the king himself, so they know you know.
Someone's got to do it.
That's what I'm saying.
We're trying.
I understand.
I did, and to your point, I did the most responsible thing that I could, since you said you got to be careful first night back. I bet every single game, but for less. I thought that was the responsible way to go about it. That way I'm seeing every game, but we're not over our skis.
All right.
I mean,
there's a lot of angles.
Do it. That's how you keep the
There's
mojo.
a lot of good. There's a couple really good matchups. Knicks, Sixers. Really?
Yeah.
You like a side in that? Nothing there? Bing bong?
On the over.
Easy. Over. Easy.
228 and a half. What's the live number? 224 and a half. We're right around it. Sixers are slow. Sixers are slow right now.
What about Phoenix and Dallas? Another pick'em game.
I'm on Luka 31 and a half. We'll see how it goes.
PRA or just points?
No, those are his points. Those are his points.
I was just saying if you got a rogue number there, that would have been a nice. The kids are calling it PRA. I'm just trying to keep up.
I saw. Yeah.
What'd you see? Give it to me.
I was going to tell you a tale. I think I'll tell you off air. You probably saw it. I'll tell you off air about it.
No problem.
I'll tell you.
No problem.
Yeah.
Boston and Chicago. I mean, this is a laydown.
I took Tatum over the 2.5 made threes. He's a lot of
Love
talk.
that.
Best player in the league. Minus 140. Little expensive. Not too expensive though. Minus 165 at other books. We played the Tatum over the 2.5 made.
I like the way you're working there. That's got to be good. After that interview where he came out, he said he's the best player in the league. He expects to be the best player in the league.
Got to step up.
Everybody in the space is talking about him to win the MVP and how much value's on that number. I don't understand it.
By the
I
way?
don't understand it, K-Dub. Bring him limos, flying planes in to bet him. He ain't going to win it.
So I mean, I had mentioned this to people. I'm not going to act like I had, prior month plus ago. I said Tatum has an argument that no one else has, which is best player, best team, which is significant, which would have been a better, when Jalen Brunson, right, was starting to push Tatum's, towards Tatum's range, right, is when I was like, that doesn't make any sense, right? Because Brunson doesn't have an angle other than he plays for the Knicks and people are excited. And, people like Dave were collecting money, people wasting money on Brunson MVP tickets. That's what it is. But the Celtics are not going to win like a historic amount of games. And I don't mean 73. Like, they're not going to get to 68. Their live win total is 63 and a half. So.
Like that over? I think I like that over.
No.
I think they win 64.
No, you and I talked about it.
Oh, okay.
You and I talked about this the other day, though. They're not, last week of hoop, they're not playing for anything. They're going to have everything locked up under the sun.
That might decide the bet. That's why that's one that you got to really tread cautiously.
Peyton Pritchard is going to decide that bet, to your point, right? Not Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown.
Correct.
Excellent. So that's why I'm not involved there.
Yeah.
My thing with Tatum but it's not 2015 anymore. I mean, we don't have to go that much further back. Embiid, Jokic, the records, the seeding, it's not coming from the best player on the best team anymore, the MVP in the NBA.
Nope.
So
it's really not.
That's the problem there.
That's the gambling knowledge and market talking. Like, we know that. The books also know that. You can see it reflected in the odds. I think the mainstream media is pushing that narrative more, and I think they're going to be disappointed. Now, will that number move? If a couple guys get hurt, yes, it's going to be dominoes. They're going to fall back, and you're going to have to lower that number on Tatum. But as far as amount of bets and stuff, I don't think you're going to get them. Can I ask you about the Clippers and the OKC Thunder game tonight? That's the premier game of the night. I mean, you got to have a side or total or prop in this game because SGA
the over.
Legit
here's
MVP
the thing.
There? No?
Oh, very much so. He's very, very much so in this race. Listen, I can't lie to people, right? See, here's the difference from people who either take this seriously or in a different space. If I work somewhere else, I could sit here and bang the table and scream in your face who the MVP is.
Don't do that.
But when we work here, if I do that and I don't believe that, that costs you money.
Right.
That's the reality of it. When I come here, I told you, I bet, Dave knows it. I said I bet all 12 games. I didn't give you 12 picks, and then I'm going to go home tonight and watch The Bachelor. No, I bet all 12 games. What we do.
Just watching them
That's
all.
what we do.
Watching them
The
all.
Bachelor might get, maybe I'll put The Bachelor on one of the TVs, right? Mrs. wants to watch it. That's all
You're
good.
not
We're
gonna
locked
watch
in.
The Bachelor
Joey's from
tonight.
Philly. That's all good. We got the bottom TV. We keep ourselves with options, okay? But we're involved. I don't have a good read on the NBA's MVP race right now. I don't. It's all over the place. And I think, and here's the best example I can give you that the odds makers don't know, is Jokic is just sitting there at the favorite. It's like, well, they're probably going to go to him because Embiid's not there. Because for the last 4 years, him and Embiid are trading the MVP award, finishing 1 or 2. It's the reality of it. So they see the SGA love, and when people click on him, they move him, but they don't really believe SGA is going to win it. And that's why they keep moving Luka and Giannis anytime anybody talks about them, because they're like, oh, those are the guys everyone always bets. So we're worried about that. They're not worried about the SGA stuff that much. And they're protecting themselves from Jokic.
That's exactly the move. It's trying. There's only one winner in that. It's a fun market to move if you have the flexibility to take on a little risk. So it's time.
Let me ask you,
go get some Luka money right now. It's time.
Let me ask you
to go get some of that. I would actually move SGA up.
When are we going to get to the point that where they offer odds to finish top 5 in MVP voting?
Oh,
when are we going to get that?
Oh, I think you're opening up a whole. Oh, Kevin. Oh, listen. If you want to do it, you could be an odds provider. If you want to start a side gig, start offering that out there. Start putting that out there. Somebody might bite and do it. But if it was our joint, I'd be like, Kevin, it's hard enough to pick the winner of who's voting.
What?
Now I got to pick the second place vote, the third place vote, how they're going to finish. I don't even want to get involved. I don't want to get involved.
But here's the thing, right? But we have, because Dave, we know, you and I we don't run a sports book, right? So we know how they operate. What they would do is they would hang the yes only, right? Yeah. And they would let you parlay them. The odds would be awful. And if they did it this year, they would collect every single ticket that put Embiid in as a free leg because he won't end up eligible. Right?
Right.
And the reality is all the people holding 25-1 on Brunson to finish top 5, and now the book's like, oh, we're in real trouble. No, we're not. We're not in that much trouble because we collected every Embiid number. So we're fine.
Correct.
And that's how they'll book it. If we get there, and I think eventually we'll get there with everything because why not? You don't want to leave dead markets. Consig. It's been a blast as always. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Enjoy the Pats.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The first unanimous number 1 team this season in the AP poll, which is the kiss of death.
True.
Right now, given what we've seen winning on the road in college basketball, it's a kiss of death to walk in there as the unanimous number 1 team in the country. Everyone says you're awesome. Everyone's telling you how great you are. And you go up against a coach who has your number for the most part.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
Guess what? Rock fight alert. Rock fight alert. Look at this Missouri-Tennessee score at the under 16. 1-0 Missouri. What is that?
Watched the entire Penguin game on Sunday. Been watching a lot of their games. I feel like we're seeing the end of the empire. There's talk of them maybe trading some big names.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
I think you try to trade Mikal Bridges. I think he's someone that is a 3-and-D guy, can score, and his game is elevated since leaving Phoenix, even though his game has maybe regressed a little bit from last year. As the number 2 option, Mikal Bridges can fetch you, I would say, at least 3 first-round draft picks. If you're not going to contend with Mikal Bridges, do him right, trade him, do a full rebuild.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
late
sort of
night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're closing out Game Time decisions. Up next will be in-game live, so make sure you are locked on SportsGrid with a lot to cover tonight. Ranked college action, full slate of NBA. The NHL is on fire right now, so make sure you are with us all night long here on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you again. We're closing out Game Time decisions. As I mentioned, full NBA card for me, a lot live right now with a lot more to come, but there is nothing that I like more on tonight's slate than Amen Thompson over 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Thompson in 5 games without Fred VanVleet to close out the pre-All-Star break run for the Rockets, averaged 27.6 points, rebounds, plus assists. Now, the books are not crazy. Fred VanVleet is back. Thompson should be removed from the starting lineup. But Ime Udoka would be crazy if he did not play the 4th overall pick, who absolutely is flashing all of his potential in that recent run, and he drops him down to 16 minutes played, 15 minutes played. Amen Thompson should be playing 20-plus minimum tonight in this game, which is what he did the 2 games prior to the VanVleet injury, and he hit this prop in both of those games. He is on fire. He is, for me, the second best prospect from last year's draft class and is now getting the opportunity. I think this is a way too big of an over-adjustment from the books on this 13.5 PRA. Give me Amen Thompson over tonight in the game between the Rockets and the Pelicans. The rest of the picks, can we remember them all? The Aaron Fox under 10.5 rebounds plus assists. Lakers plus the points. Hornets plus the points. Jason Tatum over the 2.5 made threes. We've got the over in the game with the Thunder and the Clippers. We've got Jamal Murray over 20.5 points as well. I think that may be all of them. You see him up there. It's been a blast of a night here on Game Time Decisions, and I can't wait to close out the week with you tomorrow right here on a Friday night. Best of luck. See you then.